Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, after the off-season storm, a calm has come over the Flyers. Or not. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And boy, I'll tell you what, we've got a really good one here for you today, folks. Woo! What do you think, buddy?
I'm excited.
You are?
Yes.
I mean, we are definitely in the full throes here of, hockey season is long in the rearview mirror, and the beginning of the beginning of the regular season and all that is way kind of in the distance still. And we're going to go with, after the off-season storm, a calm has come over the Flyers, or not. So we're going to jump right into it. And posted a couple of days ago on the FlyersNittyGritty.com website, which, by the way, go check that out, man. The new store for the website looks good, man. A lot of new swag going on over there.
Indeed.
So, yeah, man, for sure. You got to check out Jamie Baskow and the guys and Yarif and what they're doing over there at Flyers Nitty Gritty. Really appreciate all the help and all the support that they do and everything that they're doing over there. So appreciate that. Go check them out. The new store looks great. Can't wait to check out some new swag. So for sure, check them out. But Lance's article, who's also one of the writers for Flyers Nitty Gritty. Hey, what do you know? Go figure.
Imagine that.
So the other day you posted an article. Are the Flyers destined to have to rely on youth and inexperience to provide depth at right wing this season? And honestly, I'm going to have to ask the same question. I mean, as you mentioned in this very articulate and detailed article, that you feel Chuck should not be done with some things, maybe?
I do. After all the moves that Chuck did make this offseason, it seems, with him giving up first-round picks and everything to make the roster the way it is now, booting out some guys that really hampered the team last year, and bringing in a whole slew of other guys to hopefully change the outlook of the locker room. I really sat back and I looked at this roster and I said, if Chuck is going to go and be all in this offseason like he seems to be doing, where are any holes, if any, that still apply? And that right side is very young, very inexperienced for a team that you're going to be, giving away first round picks in order to bring back to, a level of competition to compete for the Stanley Cup. Yeah. Would I be okay if it was just a normal offseason? Probably. But, there's a lot of moves been made to definitely change this roster very quickly, not over the course of 5 seasons, over the course of a couple months. And this, I think, needs to be looked at. Now, another piece since this article came out is come into play with the signing of Carter Hart. So we are, little less in cap space in which to do so. So, it leads to definitely some questions still to be had.
Okay. I agree with what you're saying, and that's kind of why I'm asking you some of these things, because I also really think that there were some names that you brought up in this article, you know what I mean, that are going to potentially need to take that next step. I mean, we've talked about it in previous shows, and you've written about it in previous articles about how a lot of these young prospects have kind of taken a step back this year. You know what I mean? And I think that one of the players that you talk about in this article is one of the bright spots, okay, that I believe was part of the Flyers team this past year, and that was Nicholas Aube-Kubel.
Yes, NAK, as they call him, is a guy that is pretty much a fourth line player at this point. But he can potentially come up at times when there's injuries that occur. He is a scrappy, gritty player, like Philadelphia, has liked in the past. He is what I think 25, if my memory serves me right.
24,
he doesn't
25, something like that. Yeah.
He doesn't have a ton of NHL experience still with him, though. And through this season, he had only 3 goals through 50 games played. So that inability to really produce is going to leave him on at least on the score sheet is going to leave him on that fourth line. And although that is fine, he really seemed to catch that Zach Ronaldo treatment from the referees this season. And what I mean by that is, every time he stepped on the ice, he was looked at and hawked at by the officials to see if he was going to commit anything that they could call him for. He is a very energetic player that goes out there and completes every check like a player should, but at times he's a little not so disciplined with it, and likes to come up high during hits, leave his skates leaving the ice, just a little unrefined in that sense if he's going to play that physical. Now, a physical game is great in my mind. We're all for that here on the Hockey Writers Inc. But he's got to be more careful with it. In my mind, and he just doesn't have the production to maybe move up to that third line pairing if they're going to be competing for a playoff spot once again.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that because he really didn't. I mean, I get what you mean though by the Ronaldo treatment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But he doesn't have the size to be that player.
He doesn't, but he did lead the team in penalty minutes this year.
Okay, I get you on that, and I'm, that's that
almost doubling half of the team.
Yeah, he definitely obliged the referees, as many times as he probably could. Like there was no shying away from obliging the referees to pull out that whistle and call penalties on him, and that's what got him into trouble.
Well, and that's what led. Partially, not fully, but partially led the team to having some penalty killing issues. They were down a man way too frequently for my liking. I'm always down for a guy that is willing to take a penalty, a good penalty for his club, to stand up for his teammates. But you better be bringing someone along with you to that penalty box if you're going to do that.
Exactly, because too many times this past season where guys were taking dumb penalties, and guess what it led to? It led to goals. Not just, and it wasn't just a penalty. It was 4 minutes. It was 5 minutes. It was multiple penalties in a row where you constantly keep teams on the power play and keep giving them chances. I mean, no wonder Carter Hart had a horrible year. No wonder Brian Elliott had a horrible year. Well, you guys getting hung out to dry like that because you can't, you have guys that are trying to forecheck but can't. I would like to see or question, like Knack do what Joel did. I know he's not going to get 6'5" and 230 pounds, but I want to see you go and hit the weight room and put some bulk on and see what you look like then. Then maybe you can handle that physical, more of that physical type of game where you don't have to leave your skates. You don't have to hit guys high because you got some thickness and you can do that. I mean, maybe it's just me. I'm just an observationist, man. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, he could definitely do that and improve that side of his game for sure, and definitely look to take less penalties next season would help him out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that would be putting it mildly. One of the other guys that you mentioned, though, and this is another reason why I really love this article too, because I love Wade Allison. Okay, and I'm interested to see your take on how you think he's going to fit into this team.
Sure. He is but 23 years old. He came up and had an excellent short stint with the team, was a bright spot to a horrible Flyers season, and it gave fans a lot of energy towards the end of the season and will to want to come back and watch the games to see this young kid play. Now Wade was a 2016 second round pick. He spent a lot of time in Western Michigan, but he was hurt a lot, not just, little nagging injuries, season-ending injuries while he was there. So last season was a bright spot for him because he managed to stay healthy for once.
Yeah, that's always good.
and that's great. And he potentially is slotted in on the third line right now for the Flyers. And, although that is great opportunity for him, he's played in just 14 NHL games. That is a little bit to ask of him when we had a guy named Jacob Voracek playing that role consistently last season. And, like him or not, he was a point producer for quite a long time. The other guy across from him potentially is going to be JVR, and he's a 30, some goal scorer, definitely 20 goal scorer multiple times over. So that's going to be a lot to ask for a guy to fill in at who just only has 4 NHL career goals. To step in and play full time on the third line this next season. Now, I love the kid. I think he is a Flyer through and through. But, should the team entrust this much in him with going back to that theory of, looking at how much they put into this offseason and how much they gave up in order to make a complete turnover of this roster in a short amount of time. Is Chuck really gonna go with a guy that's only played 14 games and, unaware if he's gonna have that sophomore slump? Or is he going to rely on him and think that he's going to be that next Joel Farabee that can come out and score 20 goals next season? I don't want to put that pressure on this kid so quickly. And I think it's wrong to do that in a sense, because I really like this kid and I really don't want to see us rush him to the point of him needing to be that person quite yet.
I mean, that makes sense as far as to say the article is saying, relying on the inexperience and the youth. And, okay, look, I think that what Fletcher has done over this past offseason has basically told us that that's exactly what he's going to do. but he's going to rely on some of these younger guys to step up. And that's exactly what he's planning on some of these guys to do. And I think that that's exactly what a guy like Wade Allison or a guy like Nicholas
NAK.
Abe-Kubel, or any one of those guys could fill that role very easily. Okay, and I could see Chuck saying, okay, let's give these guys a chance. I'm also with you on that too, that, that's kind of relying on some inexperience. 14 games, it's not very lot, you know what I mean? And youth lacking the experience, you know what I mean? So the reason why I'm saying this is because you also mentioned in this article about somebody like bringing in somebody like a Kyle Palmieri.
Right.
You know what I mean? And although I understand why you say this, okay, and he might be able to take the reins of that spot if the two, aforementioned players can't really pan out. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like it would be like an insurance policy.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So, Kyle Palmieri has been a great player for a long time. He's 30 years old. He's a right winger. So there would lie, a certain depth and reassurance policy, like you said, to not have to rely so much on Allison right out the gate. I want to see him excel. I want to see him be given the chance, not blocked, for any length of time, but a 1-year deal for Palmieri would be that insurance policy to make sure that these first round picks and everything else that they brought in and managed to do this offseason isn't for naught. When this goes down, towards the playoffs. And, did anybody really think that Carter Hart was going to have this type season that he did last season? A setback in a way. Of course, the defense was not looked at as a bright spot going into last season. They didn't finish the job and bringing in the guys that they should have, like they did this season. But I don't really want to rush a guy like Wade Allison into doing so. Now, Palmieri is a guy that scored 10 goals and 11 assists for 21 points last season, but he also is a guy who has multiple 25 to 30 goal seasons and 45 to 50 point years, over the last 5 years. He's been a rock for New Jersey before they traded him at the deadline.
Yes,
and he's still young and he's still unsigned. Now, the Islanders have been handing out some heavy contracts of their own through their own restricted free agents. And I think Lou, the GM up there, is trying to hold off on seeing what he can offer Palmieri. I mean, he did trade for him at the deadline. I would think that he would want to resecure him if he could. But if push comes to shove, a 1-year contract with a team like the Flyers, where he could maybe get back to that 15 to 20 goal or 25 to 30 goal years for a smaller asking price or a smaller annual salary for this next season, he might be at a better point at the end of next season to ask for the type of money he did before this last contract ran out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that might even be able to potentially be another, there's some other things that we're going to talk about later on in the show too, about the other article that you wrote. That's kind of what my questioning was. I didn't want to bring in a guy who potentially could block one of these two players. But then again, you also need to have a guy who, in case these two players aren't able to put it together, need to be able to have that guy that can step in and be like, okay, so when you guys figure it out, this is how you do it.
Right. And at this point, The Flyers are looking for another banner. If they were just looking to get back into the playoffs, I think they've done enough to possibly get back into the playoffs next season. But is that what we really want as fans, or do we really want to see another banner raised in Philadelphia? I think the banner is what we're going after. And if you look at the teams that have won the Cups in the past, the Tampa Bay Lightning being the most recent with back-to-back championships, the depth on that roster, 1 through 4 lines, it is pretty heavy. It has no question marks. They have players that can put in 20 goals a season on the third line consistently every year.
They did until this past offseason.
Right, but that happens to any and all dynasty-like teams that were able to do that for any length of time. They're going to have to lose people, and of course, they lost a good player to the Seattle Kraken as well with the expansion draft. So that is going to happen, and it takes a good GM to get them back quick, fast, in a hurry to the point that they were at when they were winning championships, after everybody then signs elsewhere for, some money. You have to pay players, and you have to allow players, other ones, to leave. So
yeah. I mean, because allowing some of those other players to leave opens the door for some of the younger guys to step in to play those bigger roles and get those bigger contracts. And, Tampa Bay was definitely not shy in handing out contracts this year either.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's all good too. I mean,
well, if you think about it too, the New York Islanders, who Paul Mary was last with, made it back to the Eastern Conference Finals again. So maybe they didn't win a championship, but they did have to pay out some pretty extensive contracts, and are still working on doing that to other players of their own that they still have to sign. So they were up against the cap in the first place, and they were able to get rid of some contracts and cap space in that sense, but they still have to hand out some.
Well, yeah, because Anders Lee is going to come back from long-term IR with his injury coming back and everything too. So that's going to be the other thing that they're going to have to worry about as well too. So that could be the other thing too that the Islanders are holding off on too. Maybe they can get something for him in a trade. Do you know what I mean? Because you can trade up until the trade deadline. So you never know. And somebody could get hurt in training camp.
Yep.
And something could happen, or somebody might retire. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. And it's always nice to have those depth players. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's what I think he would be.
Yeah, I think he would be a much needed depth player to ensure that that third line is going to be a solid one. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't look at that as a definite thing to happen or whatnot, but it is something to think about. I think at this point, if you're going to put out all that they did this offseason to turn this team around and totally change the culture of the locker room. So I think he is a great player in the same token, and he's an experience for that's been on some winning clubs in the past. So,
I mean, I see what you're saying, and I get what you're going here, but frankly, I think that Fletcher's done for this year. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, I don't see any more major or even minor moves unless something special comes along, or maybe at the trade deadline, depending on what's going on with the season. I just don't. I quite honestly, I think that any of the moves that Chuck Fletcher has made is what I think the team that's what he has now is what's going to be on the ice for at least most of the guys that he has there now is going to be opening night. You know, we might get some surprises there with some of the guys in training camp that might get invited. Do you know what I'm saying? And if Palmieri is a guy that, you know, he can come in as a tryout. I mean, I don't know what his status is, if he's a unrestricted free agent or whatever the case is. If he can come in as a tryout and then get a tryout contract, or, you know, whatever the case is, that would be the only way I could see him coming in here. Do you know what I mean? Because quite honestly, I think Chuck's done.
Well,
But that's just my opinion.
He very well could be, and the thing with that is, if it was a different position, like my next article, you know, kind of alludes to, where one of the other ones that has a lot of depth at the system, I could see leaving it alone. But I think at right wing, we have a lot to be desired on that right wing, in the Phantoms, in the system altogether. I think it's something that they're trying to build up on, especially with this year's second round pick. You know, him being a right wing. So it's something that needs to be worked on. But you know, other spots on the ice definitely have a lot more depth, and you know, a player that could step up if those two didn't work out. But I just don't see the depth there at right wing in the Phantoms, or even below that. So.
Okay, I got you. Well, I'll tell you what, man. That was that was the first one. That was the first article we got to talk about. So I think that's just awesome sauce, and we're not done, because we got some more to talk about here too. And first thing I would like to say is, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, and I would like to say the Hockey Writers Inc. salute goes out to the Flyers Nitty Gritty for 38 weeks in a row on Bleacher Report. So the Hockey Writers Inc. salute goes out to Flyers Nitty Gritty, Jamie Pascal, and the team. Thank you very much for the support and for posting us out there on your website, and really appreciate that, man. That's it means a lot, and it gets us noticed, and it gets us out there on Bleacher Report. So thank you very much for that. So yeah, man. Just posted fresh. I mean, the ink is still not dry. Can I say that's part of the show? Okay, all right.
I think that's a line.
Yeah, all right. Released into the world just yesterday onto FlyersNittyGritty.com. Flyers camp battles set to ensue at center. And holy turnover, Batman. There have been a lot of moves at center this offseason. And I'm going to start off with the big giant elephant in the room, because you address it in this very poignant article. And that is that Nolan Patrick is now out west with the Golden Knights wearing number 41.
Good riddance.
Okay. I wanted to see what your first reaction was going to be to that. Okay. The reason why I asked that is because, you know, we've glossed over this a lot. Okay. And you touch on the fact that he is no longer with the team, and he was part of the package that Chuck Fletcher was able to make the trade with. And then right after that, the Nashville turned around and traded him for Glasscoal. All right. So now Nolan Patrick is playing out west for the Vegas Golden Knights. You like this? You like this move, allowing Nolan Patrick to move on? Yes.
Yes, very much so. I like it. Chuck Fletcher made a lot of these moves. I believe I called it a mass exodus of these players that he deemed that were doing the team a disservice.
Yes, sir.
And one of those players being Nolan Patrick. Nolan Patrick was second worst player in the league as far as plus minus goes. Every time he seemed to be on the ice, the other team seemed to score a goal, and he just didn't seem to be really with it here in Philadelphia anymore. I think it was good for him to move on, to get a fresh start somewhere else. The Flyers organization was really hoping that he could be that next great star that, when they got him second overall. And it just really didn't turn out to be that way, to put it nicely. So.
All right, so I'm going to be real honest with you now here. You look at the way Eric Lindros came into the league and the hoopla with Eric Lindros and how he became a Philadelphia Flyer. And he was a first-round draft pick, and people were fawning over him and fighting for him, okay? And you look at Nolan Patrick, first-round draft pick, second overall, right? And everybody was deciding, is it going to be Hischier? Is it going to be Nolan Patrick? Whatever. But when you looked at a player I'll even talk about Hischier because he was drafted ahead, right? The guy drafted right ahead of Nolan Patrick. He looked like a number one draft pick. He played like a number one draft pick. He acted like a number one draft pick. He didn't have the injuries. He was able to play right away. He didn't have any of those nagging issues that were part of his past as far as injuries were concerned or whatever case like that. Okay? Look, I don't need you to be, Mr. Congeniality here. I don't need you to be Mr. Social, right? But as a second overall pick, I need you to be, a second overall pick. Okay. And there was too many red flags. There was too many red flags when he was drafted second overall. And that's why the New Jersey Devils did not draft him. Okay. And so, look, I'm not trying to take anything away from Nolan Patrick at all or anything that what the Flyers did, but it was time to end that marriage and allow both sides to go their separate ways.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, all right. So now Flyers are kind of in need of some centers, aren't they?
I think so.
With everybody that got shipped out and everything and the turnover and all that. And Scott Lawton is the guy that you mentioned in the article as a perfect 3C. If you ask this writer, and we are going to do just that. So, with all the moves made, you like Scott for 3C?
I like him as a third line center out of the bunch that we have. Yes. A lot of people were messaging me today and they thought that Giroux should move to third line center. And I kind of questioned that. They moved him to wing because of the fact that he was slowing down. He's getting older now. And also I questioned them on the fact that do you really think the team would want to pay their captain to play on the third line and to be $8.5 million or whatever he gets paid to play on the third line minutes? I know they did that with Voracek at times, but he didn't really buy into the system and he really wasn't wanted here. That's not the same case as Claude Giroux. So, and then that would just make another hole on the top pairing line on the left side. So that doesn't really make that much sense to me. Scott Lawton is a player that some people rather see on wing. But let's remember, the only reason that he saw time on wing at all was because Oscar Lindblom received a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah. And his natural position is center, though, right?
He's always been a center, yes.
That's what I mean, yeah. So, and, I like that move. I really, really, and you know what? I would even put him with Lindblom or
I think JVR is going to be on that third line.
Or JVR would be nice. Maybe even TK. What do you think?
Well, TK plays the other side, but He plays the other side of the right wing. I think he'll be on the first or second line. I think he has a rebounded year, as he had a down year last season.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing that rotation, though.
Well, it could be. AV is a coach that likes to move players around, but I think Scott Lawton is a good face-off man. He's able to take the draws. He's able to win a good majority of them. He does some great things that a third line center should be doing. A lot of people like to see their centers score 50, 60 points a game, but not all of them have to. That's a first and a second line center that should be doing that. Now, Scott Lawton led the team last year in hits with 141. Okay, he's banging players into the glass, and he's getting that puck possession back. He was the best forechecker and back checker on the team last season, and he led the team with a plus 13 average. Both of those make for a superb player to be on that third line. All right, that is what you want from your gritty third line that is going to go out there and be those workhorses. May not be the most talented players on the ice, but that's okay because they will work that much harder. And that is, him in a heart, in a nutshell. So I really like him as that. And I see him moving around a bit at times this next season to out of that spot and worked into a wing role as injuries occur. Yeah. So that's really where I see some much needed depth beyond just him.
Yeah, and the guy that we got from Columbus for Voracek, Cam Atkinson. Right, he's a winger too, or is he?
He's a right wing, yes.
He's a right wing too. You know what I mean? So that might not even be a bad combo there either.
No, I think he's going to play probably either on the first line or second line with Kevin Hayes. I think Kevin Hayes did a lot last season. A lot of people called him out last season, but he was hurt. He played hurt and had off-season core surgery. With his core muscle. And if you know anything about skating, your core muscles are what you generally use to really get going. And I think he had a great start of the season, but after getting injured, he definitely slowed down a little bit. Now this gives somebody to him that can actually put the puck in the back of the net and get him the puck as well. So I look for Kevin Hayes to really rebound as well as Konechny. Where he now doesn't have to rely and be that guy as much. Atkinson is a all-star scoring winger.
Which is exactly why I brought him up, because he's going to be a great addition, I think, to this team.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'm really with you on that. Now, do you see the signing? Okay. So do you not see, all right, I don't know how to say this. I'm just going to come right. All right. I'm scratching my head on this whole Nate Thompson signing again. What?
Well, I think at the time of the signing, he is 36 years old now, but he was brought back because the team's penalty killing was god awful, and he really can win some draws for the team as well. But I really think that the team had a lot of depth with some of these guys that we're getting ready to talk about that could have stepped up and filled that fourth line center role just as well as Nate Thompson.
Okay, so I'm not the only one scratching my head on this one, right? I mean, I think this is another knee-jerk reaction of bringing back somebody that, it's almost, to me, it's okay. I know we talked about this in the last show. I am not a fan of Justin Braun whatsoever, and I am not a fan of Nate Thompson at all. I know he did some good things for the team when he was here, but he also didn't do some things that we were expecting him to do that he did not do. Hence his physicality, hence sticking up for other teammates and things of that nature that he's known for, did not do. So bringing somebody back like that, okay, yeah, is he good on the penalty kill? Okay, but is it worth all of the stuff that comes with that? I just don't feel that's the case. To me, I feel this was a waste of money and a waste of effort on the Flyers to bring this player back. When, as exactly you said, these next two players that we're going to talk about could very easily fill this role. Okay, and the very first player we're going to talk about is, guess who? Morgan Frost.
Yeah, Morgan Frost, he's a 2017 first round pick. He was an electric player for the Sioux Greyhounds of the OHL. And, he was over a point a game pace for much of his junior career. He does have the most NHL experience of any of the prospects at the center position that we currently have. He's played in 22 NHL contests to date. And during that time, he's netted 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points. But with that being said, I don't think the team wants to bring him in to play a fourth line role. They used him a bit at wing to bring him in to play with some better players, to not set him up to fail. I don't think that they want to bring him in as a fourth line center for a long-term basis. I do believe that the team believes in him a little more than they should at this point. He is, still fairly young.
Yeah.
But he really hasn't been able to cash in on his chances. He knows where to be on the ice. He's always in the right position, but he's just been snake bitten when he's been up with the Flyers. And his lack of durability is a problem in my mind.
Yeah.
He did last season play in 2 NHL games, but he suffered a season-ending dislocated left shoulder that he had to have surgery on from a clean hit.
That didn't look.
It didn't look remotely as terrible as the doctor's prognosis or diagnosis was made out to be. And if he's going to play in the NHL on a consistent basis moving forward, he is going to have to be a little bit more durable or a little bit more elusive, if not. In that time span, he has to see these hits coming and prepare for them or get out of the way.
He needs to go talk to Joel.
He does.
Every single one of these players that we're talking about right now needs to talk to Joel. Because whatever Joel did between that first year and second year, where he went to the weight room and
put on about a good 15 pounds of muscle.
Okay. Can y'all do that? Can we just smack you upside, that infamous commercial, I pick things up and put things down. Great. Can you do that for a summer? Just concentrate on that,
And I believe Morgan Frost, instead of staying around the area and working with coaches and strength and conditioning coaches, he decided to go back up to Canada once again, which seemed to be his downfall last offseason when he couldn't get on the ice enough. With COVID and everything like that, the Canadian provinces were really strict on it, as they still are, with all the shutdowns and mandates and everything else that are going on. I think he would have been better off staying down here and working his tail off if he really wants to be an integral part of the Flyers' main roster next season. And he yet again didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well too. And even coach asked the players, "Hey, stick around. Hey, can you stick around?" You know what I mean? One of the players we're also talking about too is like I think is going to get a shot at camp this season as well, and I hope he makes it hard to be sent down as well. I'm a big fan of Tanner Lazinski, and I really like what he brings to the game, and I was really disappointed to see that he spent what most of the season last year on the practice squad. And that's just kind of was like that almost seemed like a death sentence. Like you're just pretty much guaranteed to not play. You get to practice and all that, but that's all you get to do.
Yeah, so Tanner, he got his chance with the Flyers at times this season, playing in 5 games. But like you said, he was most of the time resorted back to the taxi squad. And he is 24 years of age and played a lot of time down at Ohio State with the Buckeyes. He spent 4 seasons there, which he was a point per game player there as well, as he was with the Chicago Steel before that of the UHSL. He is a great young player, but he didn't really show me a ton last season when he got the chance to play with the Flyers. Like you said, he didn't get a lot of time at the AHL level either. He was stuck in a limbo there. He played in 14 games last season in the American Hockey League with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. And while there, he posted 6 goals and 4 assists for 10 points on the year. Not too shabby, but he spent a lot of time not playing games because he was needed to be there with the team in case, somebody got sick. So what I think will do him the best is to play consistently with the Phantoms and be called up when needed for the Flyers. He is a little older. He has played against, grown men in the NCAA rankings. And he knows what is going to be needed of him. And I really wanted to see a little bit more from him last season when he got a chance to get his feet wet in the NHL. But I think, he just didn't really get a chance to do that.
Yeah, and it's hard when you spend all that time on the taxi squad, and it's like, we only need you for a couple of games throughout the whole season.
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, really? I spent the whole time on the taxi squad. I practiced with everybody, but I never got to play. I'm sitting up there in the press box watching the game, and it's like, okay, so he took one for the team last year. All right. So let's see what he comes out with this coming camp. See, I think this training camp for Philadelphia this year is going to be very pivotal because I think we're going to see a changing of the guard. And I also think we're going to see the changing of the culture as well, too, because of the players that Chuck brought in. He's bringing in guys that are AV type guys, right?
Finally,
Fine.
yes.
Okay. So, I guess it only took the first 3 season bricks on the head. You know what? Okay. Last guy we're going to talk about here, and also very excited about this. Another great prospect as well too, and that is Jackson Cates. And I'm excited to see what he's going to potentially be able to be for the Flyers. If not this year, then maybe, I don't know. What? You tell me.
Well, he's signed through this next season. And Jackson Cates was picked up late after he was finished his season at the Minnesota Duluth with the Bulldogs down there. They won a national championship back in 2019. He is a bigger scorer than his brother Noah, who the Flyers drafted, and have in their system, but not yet signed. He's a year older, I believe, or 2 than his brother, and hence finished school that much sooner.
Yeah.
Cates is a gritty 2-way center. I really like his game. At times, he did stand out even in his limited playing time. I think he played in 4 or 5 games for the
Yeah,
Flyers this past
something like
season.
that. Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
yeah, so, but, he is an older player like Blazinski. He's 23 years of age, where Tanner was 24 now. And, he has played against some tough competition. He has played in some very big games down at the collegiate ranks. So it just, it makes sense to bring him in
Yeah.
and to be that fourth line player if need be. And that's like you said earlier. I really don't see the need for bringing back Nate Thompson when you had these guys signed, but it is what it is at this point. I don't think they want another Connor Bunnaman type signing where he comes up for a game or two is less than impressive. They wanted a guy that is a proven NHL player, and they got that. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you 110%. And that's exactly, I mean, that's perfect.
yeah.
So, yeah. Look, with all the recent selections from Chuck over the last 2 drafts, it appears that he seemed to be addressing the center position. You know what I mean? Where he's gotten some players that can fill those center position roles, I think, very well. Okay, over the last 2 drafts, I think. And they're just a little bit away. I mean, not quite ready this year, you know what I mean? But I really like what he's done over the last couple of drafts. I mean, what do you think? You think that's kind of where he's going? I mean,
Well, I really like the 2020 draft. I'm not sold yet on a lot of the picks from this last draft.
yeah, yeah.
But we'll see. I didn't think that Elliot the Destroyer would be who he has turned out to be yet
Wow,
either.
yep.
So 2 guys that he drafted though was a guy named Tyson Forrester back in the 2020 NHL first round draft pick. And, they got a great chance there, him and Zayd Wisdom. Both players were players that were supposed to be sent packing back to the OHL, but they didn't have a season in the OHL last season.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were allowed to play in the AHL, which I believe both players, Forrester and Wisdom alike, definitely benefited from. Tyson, who came from the Barrier Colts, was a guy who had an elite level shot. And still does. He scored 36 goals and had 44 assists for 80 points for the Colts the year he got drafted. He has an NHL size frame as well with 6'2" and 194 pounds. That's what we want to see here, guys. We want to see some height. We want to see some, weight behind these players. This past season with the Phantoms, it took him a little. He was a little banged up at the beginning of the season, but he got going. He scored 10 goals and 7 assists for 17 points in 24 games played, and was really picking it up and putting it down as the season went on. He is still young, but he looks to be a player that will be ready sooner rather than later. And if need be, I believe personally that he could come up and play wing if need be to provide that scoring threat that they don't have.
This year, you mean?
This year, possibly even if
Wow.
some definite injuries occur.
Okay, because that was what I was going to ask you. With the draft picks like Tyson Forster and Zumala and potentially Cam York potentially, and some of the other guys potentially making the team this year out of camp. You know what I mean? What do you think about all that? I mean, that kind of goes back to the whole, relying on the youth.
It does.
You know,
I don't think Chuck or AV want to necessarily do that. If somebody blows them away, then by all means. But the guys they signed, with Yandel and everything else, um, it makes it so that they don't have to do that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's going to give them all a year to play some big time minutes at the AHL level and not have to be rushed. Now, if their injuries occur and they can come up and showcase themselves a little bit, by all
Couple of
means,
games, whatever. Yeah,
right, and get some experience, then great. But it's not going to have them come
yeah,
in and play big time minutes for the
yeah,
Flyers and be rushed.
yeah,
And that's what it is with Tyson, and Wisdom as well. I really like Wisdom. He is
yeah.
a lock in my mind to be that potential third or fourth line
He is a
center
flyer.
in the years coming. He
Yeah,
is that flyer. He is that hardworking,
yeah.
blue collar guy who, in my mind, I would love to have him on the team last season, come up, but I get why the team didn't want to really rush him. He was a guy that Chuck Fletcher moved up in the 2020
Yeah,
draft.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he believed him in a whole lot, and he saw a lot of potential there. He was overshadowed in juniors by a guy that was his line mate in Shane Wright, who is going to be, in my mind, the number one overall pick in the 2020 draft, in the 2022 draft. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
Zane had a great career in juniors in his own right. He did score 29 goals in his draft year. He did score 30 assists for 59 points.
Yeah.
He can get it done. He is gritty. He is a banger. He does get into all the tough spots, and he is already well over 200 pounds.
Yeah. And he
So
plays a bigger game too.
he plays a bigger game for sure.
Yeah.
He is an absolute bulldog on the ice. He skates. He does not skate by players. He skates through
Through
players.
players, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really like that about him. And even I could not take my eyes off this player last season, in the preseason games that he played in.
Uh-huh.
He was just electric. And I think, out of all these players, of course, Forrester is a guy that, you're going to look to score a lot of goals. But in my mind, I really like Zayd Wisdom to be a Flyer sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I thought with all the injuries that occurred last season that he would be a name that they maybe bring up for a game or two. But like we already said, they have some guys that they brought in that are older, that
Yeah.
are going to essentially be around with Lazinski and all that, and Cates. But so he doesn't have to be rushed. But boy, do I want him to be.
I'm with you. No, no, no.
I,
I'm with you. I'm with
I'm
you too. I'm
excited.
with you.
I'm excited to see this kid
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
a Flyers uniform sooner rather than later.
I'm also excited to see Cam York to get that shot because I think he's going to be a good shot as well too. Look, all in all, I like what has been done this offseason. And for the first time, I'm really genuinely excited about this upcoming season. I mean, I know we say that about it every year, but this one just seems different. Okay. Like Chuck heard the banging on the walls or something. You know what I mean? Like the ton of bricks finally hit him. Oh, I guess I better do some things here. You know what I mean? So, um, man, I'll tell you what, Lance, great articles, great stuff. Always good talking about the Flyers. Like I said, I'm excited about this team. I'm excited to see the guys that are going to get the invites to camps. You know what I mean? And I'm also going to be excited to see if Chuck is done or not.
Yeah, I am too. I really think he's one more piece away from actually really solidifying his master plan here. If he can pick up some of these guys, I really like some guys like Palmieri or Nikia Gutsov as well, who's still out there in free agency land, who could potentially be brought in for some scoring depth.
Yeah.
I really like Wade Allison, but the short amount of games that he's seen at the NHL level scares me. With all that Chuck Fletcher has done, I don't want to see it fall short in my mind. With the fact that he gave up so much and did such a huge turnover on this roster, to see it fail or just come short of accomplishing their goals.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. And with that, folks, man, here we go, boy. We got another good one in the can, brother. What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah,
hopefully the fans think so.
I think so too. Yeah. Well, we'd like to thank you all very much for checking us out and tuning in. Really appreciate that. Lance is our wonderful and grateful host, as always. And we can find Lance where?
You can find all my articles on Flyers Nitty Gritty and SteelFlyers.com. You can also find my stuff on Bleacher Report. And you can follow me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the numbers 39.
Awesome sauce. You can check me out on the web at www.steelflyers.com, along with catching the Hockey Writers Inc. at www.steelflyers.com/links/the Hockey Writers Inc. Check us out, man, where the ink is not dry and the writers are fresh off the presses. Thanks for tuning in this week. We got another great one. We'll be back next week with some more great stuff about the Flyers. We'll catch you next time. Thank you all for joining us.